The process of mine getting to the Metropolitan was most interesting because I was a violinist. I had studied violin at the age of 10. And then when I was about 15, 16, I was singing in Armenian churches. And my cousin decided that I should give up the squeak box, as she called it, the violin, and take voice lessons. She said, "You have a beautiful voice, you should take some voice lessons." So I went to the community music school where I was studying violin and asked them if there was a voice teacher available. And there was none at that time, and they said, "We'll let you know when one is available." And about a month or so later, they called me and said, "There is a teacher available." So I went down to the school, and her name was Miss Upshur. And I had about 4 lessons, and at that time it was a half an hour once a week. And she decided to leave the school and go to Mills College to teach, making more money, naturally. And so when she left, I called her and I said, "I'd like to continue my studies with you, and what do you charge?" She says, $10 a lesson. Well, here I was paying $1 a lesson at the school. So I said, "Thank you very much." And I asked if another teacher could be available. And, well, not right this moment, but anyway, a month or so later, they called me and they said, "There is a teacher available." So I went down to the school, and when I walked in the door, I knew who this woman was because I had been to several of her concerts. Because I had a wonderful friend, a coppersmith, and when my teacher, her name was Stella Eisner, would give concerts and recitals, she would always give 2 tickets to this coppersmith, and he would pass me the tickets and let me go to the concerts. So when I walked in and I said to her, "Well, I know who you are." And she looked at me and she says, "And I know who you are because I take my shoes to be repaired at your father's shoe repair shop." So this started my lessons at the school, again, a half an hour once a week. And finally she said to me after about 3 or 4 lessons, she said, "You know, you're not going to get anywhere with this half an hour once a week. Why don't you come and study with me privately?" And she said, "I'll give you a good price." The price being $15 a month. I said, "Fine, I'll ask my parents." And at that time I had a job as a typist at the Southern Pacific Railroad. And it so happened that she lived right around the corner from me. We're in San Francisco. And she would give me a lesson after my job. I would take the cable car and go home and have a glass of milk and some graham crackers, and then I would run to my lesson. Well, for several lessons, I couldn't get above a G. Just couldn't sing through it. So one day I was late, didn't get home, went right to the lesson, and she fixed me a cup of Turkish coffee, and we sat and talked for a little bit. And so after a while, she said, "Well, let's start to do some vocalises." So we started on the vocalises, and here I am, I'm at a G sharp. And A, B flat, I got to a B, and she stopped and she said, "What are you doing different today?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Well, what didn't you do today that you usually do?" I said, "I usually go home and have milk and some graham crackers." She says, "No more milk and graham crackers for you," because it was creating so much phlegm that I couldn't sing through it. And after I'd had lessons about a year of this, and she gave me a lesson almost every day for $15 a month. So she decided that I was going to have to get stage experience, and she decided I should audition for the San Francisco Opera Chorus. Well, which I did. I'd had about a year of lessons, and I auditioned for the San Francisco Opera Chorus, and they accepted me as a contralto, because that's how I started. I started as a contralto. My voice was very low. And Kurt Adler was the chorus master at that time at the San Francisco Opera. So I was there for 2 years, 45 and 46. And in 1947, my teacher decided that I should come to New York and audition for the Metropolitan. I had no credits. I had not sung any operas anywhere except in the chorus, but she insisted. So, and she felt that I needed a patron, somebody to help with the expenses of coming to New York. And it so happened that I was earning at some time at the beginning of my secretarial jobs $16 a week. I would bring home $15 and give it to my mother, and then I would keep $1 for car fare. Well, when I told Mother that Stella wanted to go to New York, I said, where am I going to get the money? Well, she took out a passport, savings passbook, and showed me. There was $1,500. All that $15 a week that I was giving my mother, she was banking it for me. And then Stella had a friend who lived in the same apartment flats as she did, and she suggested that her son knew a very wealthy young man, and maybe their parents would help me. So his name was Donald Levy, and he came to the studio at Stella's apartment, and he heard me sing, and then he wanted his mother to hear me sing. So one day we called while I was having a lesson, and I sang over the phone to Helen Levy. And the second time that Donald came to the house, he left $50 for me to help pay for my lesson. So with that, when Helen realized that I was going to come out to New York, she felt that I needed a fur coat. So we went shopping, and she bought me a mouton, which was a sheepskin, coat, and to keep me warm, knowing that when we were coming to New York in February, it would be cold. And she bought me several dresses, and she gave me $200 spending money to come to New York. So we took the train, Stella and I. She came out with me naturally. And on the train, she decided that I had to learn Elsa in Lohengrin in 3 days. Well, I took the score, and I'm trying to learn this on the train. And I took such a dislike to this role. I said, the silly, stupid goose. He tells her, don't ask my name, don't ask me where I'm from. And what does she do? Exactly that what he told her not to. So I disliked that opera terribly, and I couldn't learn it. And I told her, I said, it's impossible, no way. And from that day on, I never wanted to sing Elsa in Lohengrin. But we're getting off the track. Anyway, at the Metropolitan, Stella's brother, Bruno Eisner, who was a famous pianist, and also the other conductor that I had sung for in San Francisco at Stella's home, he was the one that suggested if I ever came to New York that he would help me get an audition at the Met, and that's how it really came about. And at that time, I auditioned for Max Rudolph at the roof stage in the old Met. And he said, the voice is like a plant, it has to grow. This is 1947. I auditioned for the City Opera, I auditioned for Columbia, and all these different places. But of course, I was a diamond in the rough. Really what I was. I had no credits, nothing. So we came back to San Francisco, and Stella decided that I should give a debut recital. And so we prepared, and at that time, Donald Levy, Richard Gerson, and Paul Eisler became my 3 musketeers. And each one would do the publicity, and one would get stories, and one was trying to, everybody had a job. So the day my concert came before, Helen took me shopping, and she bought me a beautiful gown, and she paid for the accompanist, and she paid for the rental of the hall, and I sang my very first recital, and I opened that program with Beethoven's A Perfido. My teacher felt that I was a young dramatic soprano, and I had to sing everything dramatic. Anyway, the critic wrote that I sang everything too much alike. I can't remember the critic's name right now. But anyway, because of the debut recital, I was offered a scholarship to the Music Academy of the West at that time. And Richard Bonelli was the teacher. Well, my teacher became furious that I was given this scholarship because she was the only teacher and she didn't want anybody else teaching me. But anyway, I went to Santa Barbara and worked with Richard Bonelli, but all I did was get up and sing Pace Pace Mio Dio. Didn't tell me what to do with it or anything. But the funny thing is, in this Carpinteria, Santa Barbara it was, area, this school that they had a dining room that was, my God, it was, the room was from here to almost across the street, that long, and it had chandeliers. And every time I practiced in that room and sang Pace, the lights would flicker on and off from the vibration of my voice. But anyway, I finished and gained weight at the school because they served such, oh my God, what breakfasts, lunch with sauces, and dinner even worse with ice cream, dessert, and all. And then at night, of course, we would have crackers and peanut butter. So I really gained quite a bit of weight. And one night I saw a big scale for weighing bulk potatoes and thing. I got on that scale, and when I saw what I had gained, I decided that was the end of that. I wasn't going to eat anything more. And when I got back home to San Francisco, I went on a diet immediately. Well, when my patroness, Helen, heard about it, she says, "You're going to go to my doctor." So she sent me to her doctor because to put me on a good plan. Anyway, this is getting to be so long. I'm thinking how all this came about with the help that I got because I had a patroness. And I feel so badly for the young singers today when they have to pay $150 for a lesson. They have to go to a drama coach. They have to go to a language coach. They have to go to a accompanist to prepare a coach. Where I feel badly for them, I really do. My time, it was a little different. It's too bad that there aren't more patrons to help young singers with their careers today. That was 1947. And in 48, my teacher decided that I should go and do the Atwater Kent auditions. Well, I said, I can't do that. I'm a professional singer already. I sang with the San Francisco Opera Chorus. He says, no, you're going to go and do that audition. So I went and did the audition. My teacher accompanied me, and I sang the aria from Roberto Diablo. I can't remember that aria to save my life now. I don't remember it at all. But anyway, I was chosen to go down to Los Angeles for the semifinals. And at the semifinals, I was told to sing Pace Pace Mio Dio. In fact, my teacher insisted that I have to sing Pace, which I sang, and I became one of the finalists. And for the finals, my teacher decided that I should sing Ozean de Ungeheuer. And when I told the people that I was going to sing Oberon's aria, they said, no, Lucine, please stick with Pace. I said, but Jean Fenn is singing Pace. He said, it doesn't matter, you stay with Pace. So I sang Pace, and lo and behold, the day of the finals, I came down with a head cold. Terrible. I remember Nelson Eddy and Jeanette MacDonald being there at the auditions. I have a picture taken with them. So as I sang, they chose 5 winners out of 8. There were 8 finalists, and there was chosen 5. They announced the 5th prize, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. Well, when 2nd, I figured that's it. When they announced my name as first prize winner of $2,000, I couldn't believe it. I really was shocked.
First prize of $2,000, Lucine Amara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
first prize winner among the hundreds of girls who entered this year's Atwater Kent auditions is 23-year-old Lucine Amara, a dark-haired, dark-eyed dramatic soprano from San Francisco. We present Miss Amara now singing the Verdi aria Pace Pace Mio Dio from La Forza del Destino.
And at that time, I was in 48, and 49, Carl Ebert called my teacher to come and sing his production of Ariadne auf Naxos in English. And of course my teacher said yes. So I think I was the only one that was given a scholarship to his class only. I didn't go as a college student. It was just only for the opera class. And so I prepared Ariadne auf Naxos in English, and then I had to learn a second opera, which was Albert Herring, and I sang the role of Lady Billows. And in the only line I remember from this opera of Albert Herring is, tobacco stink, nasty masculine smell. So this is how at least I got some credits of having sung 2 operas. So at that time, Carl Ebert said to me, he said, I know who the new director of the Metropolitan is going to be. And he said, I will write a letter of recommendation that you should go to New York and audition. I said, fine, but unless an audition is set up, I'm not going to go and sit on the doorsteps of the Metropolitan waiting to audition. So it was set up that I go to New York. And in the meantime, I had already sung with Pierre Monteur with the San Francisco Symphony. And I had also sung for the Standard Hour. So I was beginning to make sort of a career in San Francisco. And Monteur also said that he would write, because his wife took an interest in me also. And he wrote a letter of recommendation. So I came out to New York. It was April of 1950. And the aria that I sang naturally was Pace. The second aria I sang the Dove Sono, because I had heard that Mr. Bing liked Mozart very much. So I decided to sing Dove Sono. After I sang the second aria, they said, what else do you have, Miss Amara? I said, Visi d'arte and Santuzza's aria and something else. And they said, we'd like to hear Voi lo sapete o mama. I said, but I don't have the music. He said, Miss Amara, we have a library upstairs. So I walked off stage, and the accompanist was Maestro Barbieri. And we went upstairs and got the music and ran through it and came back down after another singer had auditioned, and came back on stage and said, thank you very much, Miss Amara. So I figured that's that. And I went home. I was staying with a friend of Stella, my teacher. In fact, I was staying in her apartment. She allowed me to share her apartment. And they called me 3 days later. Florence Guarino called me, who happened to be the secretary of Max Rudolph. So they said, please, Miss Amara, would you please come in? They would like to hear you again. So I came in, and this time I sang Visi d'arte and Dove Sono again. They said, thank you very much. So figured that's that. And I went home to the apartment in New York. It happened to be a walk-up on 8th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. And again, 3 days later, Florence Guarino called me and said, Max Rudolph would like to see you. So I went in, and Max Rudolph said to me, he said, you did very well. I said, even with butterflies in my stomach? He says, well, sometimes butterflies help. I wasn't nervous for myself. I was nervous for all the other auditioners. So anyway, I had a nice chat with Max Rudolph, and he said, we would like to give you a 22-week apprentice contract. And I sat there for a moment, in fact, several moments, thinking, well, my life is in San Francisco. My parents are in San Francisco. And I had a Greek boyfriend at that time in San Francisco. I really had to think hard. Do I want this 22 weeks? Do I want a career as an opera singer? So I accepted. And then I was given a contract, and it so happened that Willie Stein had spoken to me, and he said, he wanted to handle me as my manager. I said, well, okay. And in fact, I had gotten the contract myself, and Max Rudolph said, if you pay him any commission, you're wrong. You shouldn't, because he did not get you the contract. You got the contract yourself. Well, being naive and all, what am I supposed to do? But then they told me that I had to come back in September, and at that time the season opened in November. And I was given classes to the Catherine Turney Long courses, stage department. We had coaching, and we had staging and all these. And then I wasn't even supposed to sing on opening night, the Celestial Voice. Genevieve Warner was supposed to sing it, and Fritz Streetery was conducting. And I was called in, and I was told that I was going to sing the Celestial Voice in Don Carlo, because my voice was stronger and it could be heard off stage, whereas Genevieve Warner couldn't. They would probably have had to mic her, I guess, and they didn't mic at the Met when I got there.